Hi guys, so Wes Streeting is a Labour MP you need to keep your eye on in the future. I've seen a number of interviews with him and he has been a fantastic speaker, and a few days ago he delivered this amazing attack on Boris Johnson and the Tories. Wes begins with a response to how the Prime Minister is planning to change things, shake them up, carry out some reforms, following a bruising confidence vote this week. He attacks here what I call the normalisation of failure. Have a listen.
I don't know what people are expecting to change. This is who Boris Johnson is. This is who he has always been, and he will never change. And the reason why he's able to stay on, despite losing the confidence of 40% of his MPs, is because the majority of the Conservative Party's MPs are willing to tolerate the intolerable and to defend the indefensible and to look the other way, even as Boris Johnson bulldozes through the very basic standards of public life that every politician should abide by and every politician should be held accountable to. And as for delivery, OK, the Tories are trying to recruit 20,000 more police officers to replace the 21,000 that they scrapped. We've got the highest taxes since just after the Second World War, 15 tax rises in the last 2 years, and people are paying more and getting less. The largest NHS waiting lists in history, and they were at record levels before the pandemic, before Chris tries to blame those on schools. The gap between kids from the richest and poorest backgrounds is widening. Life expectancy in this country is lessening. People are dying earlier. And if that's not enough, if we want a human illustration of what is fundamentally wrong in our country, it's the fact that despite all the pressures that the NHS is currently under, there are hospitals in this country who are opening food banks, not to serve the local community, but to serve their own staff because they are so poorly paid and so poorly treated. If that's a record that Boris Johnson wants to stand on, if that's a record that Chris wants to defend, then bring it on. And if the Tories are stupid enough to be led into the general election by Boris Johnson, give me a choice of Keir Starmer and Boris Johnson every day of the week and twice on polling day.
Wonderful, a wonderful speech here. So many things to talk about. First of all, I just want to hit on what he said about policing. Yes, Boris Johnson talked about hiring 20,000 new police officers. In reality, this 20,000 is only going to cover, well, it doesn't cover the 21,000 that have either left the force or retired or whatever, have changed. So it's changed job. It's not actually 20,000 new police officers to add on top of the current number. No, it's not even going to cover the ones who have left or retired or whatever. But I think the more fundamental point here, of course, is the fact that NHS staff are relying on food banks, and these food banks are being set up by the NHS. The NHS's job is not to set up food banks, it's to provide healthcare to the public. And instead, what it seems to be doing, and the NHS is struggling at the moment. It can't get the staff it needs because of the ending of freedom of movement. It can't carry out all the operations and activities that it wants to because services have been cut back because of Tory cutbacks. And at this stage, it's trying to help its own staff. This is just insane. The neglect by the Conservatives over the last 10 years is epic, because you have not just food banks, but you have NHS staff going to food banks, and if that isn't enough, NHS staff going to food banks set up by the NHS. This is completely unacceptable. I covered it a few weeks ago where there was a police officer who asked Priti Patel, could you live on £1,200 or £1,400 a month? And of course Patel could not answer, so she started talking about something else. Complete and utter disconnect from reality here. But how disconnected from reality do you have to be perfectly fine with NHS staff going to food banks in the first case and then going to NHS set up food banks in the second case? It's completely unacceptable and completely disconnected from any sort of reality. The social safety net is there to protect people allegedly to protect people when they lose their job. It shouldn't be there when people have jobs. It shouldn't be there when people are working for the NHS. And what is Boris Johnson leading on? That was the point raised also by Wes Streeting. Well, he has got Brexit done. Well, we're still talking about the Northern Ireland Protocol. On Monday, his party is going to introduce legislation to undo part of the Brexit deal, the oven-ready deal. So Brexit has not been done. What has he achieved? If food banks is the achievement, then yes, he has delivered on that. This is completely unacceptable. And I hope that the public are listening to this and realizing we could have something better. We don't have to be stuck with these people. We have to vote them out. We have to get out and vote and remove them from power. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think about all of this. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.